I can't remember the exact moment I first watched the music video for How Can I Live by Ill Niño. It was released as a single on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2003, but I mostly remember it on Saturdays on MTV2's Headbangers Ball. Just know that the first time and every time I heard it as a kid, I lost it. I swear that intro alone made me manic, much less the entire song. Honestly, I still get a little crazy whenever I hear it. The music video features a girl being chased by something. I have no idea what. But the lyrics and the woman staring at frontman Cristian Machado as he hangs suspended over a bathtub suggests a theme of romantic love. However, on closer inspection of the song and the album Confession, we see a different story. A story that was 28 years in the making. Ill Niño was born in 1998 in New Jersey to drummer Dave Chavarri, who, as of 2024, has been the only original member of the band. Ill Niño has seen many different lineups over the years, but the one that comprised the creation of Confession were Aru Luster on lead guitar, Jardel Paisante on rhythm guitar, bassist Lazaro Las Pina, percussionist Danny Couto, Omar Clavijo on keyboards and turntables, Dave Chavarri on drums, and vocalist Cristian Machado. Each member, with the exception of Luster, is of Latin descent. Drummer Chavarri was born in Peru, Laz's family is Dominican, while vocalist Machado was born in Brazil. When he was a year old, Machado and his mother moved to Uruguay for 3 years and then to Venezuela in search of a better life. However, they did not live on the mainland, but on Isla Margarita, or Margarita Island, 25 miles north of the mainland. They later moved to Queens, New York before settling in Union City, New Jersey. When still living in Margarita Island, or perhaps when still living in Uruguay, Machado's mother would give birth to a baby girl, and Cristian was told that the sister's father, his stepfather, was actually his biological father. This is what he was led to believe for the first 11 years of his life. But Cristian was born in Brazil. He knew something didn't make sense, and he was right. Eventually, when Cristian was 11 years old, his mom told him that his actual biological father was from Brazil. However, Cristian recalled, quote, "I was always told that there was no way of ever getting in touch with him, ever. We don't know where he is. He could be dead for all we know." Years later, as he got more into the New York hardcore and metal scene, he received a phone call. It was his dad. Apparently, his mom decided to get in touch with Cristian's father and gave him Cristian's number. At the time, Cristian was 19, and he admitted to media channel Face Culture in 2003 that he took out all his teenage angst on his father on that phone call. In hindsight, he didn't believe he handled the situation maturely, but to his credit, if you were led to believe something that wasn't true, is it not natural to react based on what you know? Who was he supposed to trust? His mom that had been by his side, that he had a good relationship with? Or his father, who Cristian felt abandoned his responsibility? It would be almost a decade later before Cristian would revisit that phone call that he later confessed could have saved or at least changed his life in a positive way. But within that decade, those buried feelings would slowly work their way into his subconscious mind and by extension, his music. Released on September 18, 2001, Ill Niño became the latest Latin metal band to take the world by storm. And yes, that pun was definitely intended, as the band was initially called El Niño. Now, I know I said on Deftones' 2003 self-titled album that it had one of the best transitions from first to second track on any album in music history, but God Save Us to If You Still Hate Me is legendary. As a kid, it was like getting my skin ripped off and then being placed in hot oil. It's a 1-2 punch that makes me thankful that Chavarri stopped touring with Soulfly and decided to bless the world with Ill Niño. Cristian Machado didn't know it at the time, but this album was his opportunity to truly evoke emotions and thoughts that had molded his personality, but that he was unaware of. I think his decision to move from bass to vocals was a brave one that we all are thankful for because, well, in my opinion anyway, he has the best voice in nu metal. Throughout Revolution Revolucion, Machado vomits the machinations of his imagination. On God Save Us, he screams, "I am what you despise. I am just a disgrace you will never embrace." On Unreal, he says, "What would it take to not look away, to open my eyes and stare in the face, to learn from what's real I'm trying to deal, but it's worthless." On Rip Out Your Eyes, "Your mind is awakening, your soul is repenting. On No Murder, I realize that everything I want to be is everything you once took away from me." Chris is starting to understand himself as the album progresses, but perhaps this is where Revolution Revolucion starts to come undone. There's a near constant sentiment echoing throughout the album about this moment being Chris's time, but it gets drowned out by the nu metal cliches of "the pain I feel deep inside," and sometimes some clumsy wordplay such as "because you won't learn that this is my turn to return." Of particular note is What Comes Around, a blindingly masterful track of spite and regret for an ex who had, let's say, a self-righteous streak. Outside of it being one of Ill Niño's best songs ever, I point out this track because Cristian's blistering rage for this girl is ironic, given his own self-righteousness against his father not being in his life. Remembering Cristian's words with Face Culture in 2003, he admitted to not handling that situation maturely. In fact, he had also shared that his father had never been given a chance to share his side of the story, and that all Cristian ever had was his mother's words, that his father was impossible to contact. It is easy to see Cristian's error, and I still think he shouldn't beat himself up for how he acted back then, because he had no idea his father was going to contact him after his mother gave him his number. I mean, in fact, based on his telling of the story, he later realized that that's how his father must have gotten his number. Nevertheless, Revolution Revolucion was Cristian's opportunity, his time, to finally move from bass to the microphone center stage, and to express emotions so volatile he was unable to revisit his lyrics in a more conscious and meaningful way for years. Thankfully, he was able to re-examine those sentiments, just as Ill Niño began to write their sophomore and ultimately best-selling album. Cristian Machado stated that Confession is a collection of stories, an album of snapshots of his life. With Te Amo, I Hate You, the opening track on Confession, Machado stated that the song is, quote, about the people who tell you they love you to your face, but say, I hate you behind your back, end quote. When returning home from touring for 2.5 years, Ill Niño had some friends and relationships that turned sour. While some continued to show love, others became hypocrites. Bassist Las Pina described writing How Can I Live as, quote, the most beautiful experience. I would have to agree with him, as the entire album showcases elite chemistry among the band members, which makes this all the more incredible as guitarist Luster and percussionist Kuto were new members. Machado confessed that this song is about his father, and with lyrics such as, I am your mirror image of all you left behind, you made me what I am, and who the hell am I? Machado now faces the mirror and sees his father. Do you think of me? Do you dream of me? I always dream about you. Illustrates that Machado's subconscious notions had now become truly confessional. About a decade ago, he was yelling at his dad, but now he confessed such an intimate fact. That's growth. As a matter of fact, he sings it in the chorus. All that lies in me, all that dies in me. How can I live without you? To Vaya con Dios, or Go with God, sounds like another close friendship has been undone. If the songs on this album are snapshots of Machado's life, this appears to have been a somewhat brutal loss as well. The lyrics aren't even poetic, and while lyrics in this early era of Ill Niño have been criticized as simplistic, I think that sometimes songs such as this one cut to the relatability and therefore immediate connection with the band. Unframed is fucking brilliant, as it further shows Machado's deep integration of the event that could have saved his life had he had the maturity and the truth of how to contact his father. The lyrics are quite self-explanatory and tells the story of how Machado's father called him when he was 19 and how Machado exploded on him. But Machado also questions his mother's duplicity, which led to him becoming self-destructive, fucked up, and indecisive. Also, Cristian explicitly states in his interview with Face Culture in 2003 that Unframed is, quote, the extension of what comes around.
Like that song pretty much to me is the extension of what comes around. In what comes around, I was just explaining a meaning about the way I felt. I didn't know why I felt the way I felt. But Unframed, I totally wanted to just tell the story. I kind of, reading back the lyrics of the first record, maybe found myself out and made me able to go deeper into who I really was and why I made the decisions that I made and stuff like that. Once he was introduced into my life, it's like, this is your father. And the pictures were always stuffed away in a fucking envelope in a closet because there was always another man around that was with my mother. So in a weird way, it was just, you know, I knew his face and I knew that he was my father and I knew his name, but all his pictures were unframed and I had never met him. You know what I'm saying? Okay. It's kind of like a little twist on it, and lyrically, I think it's a great fucking story. Great fucking story.
Cleansing perhaps is another snapshot in Machado's life, where he felt cleaner admitting that he despised someone that he once believed he liked. And for the song This Time's For Real, Machado shared that the song was about realizing that for the first time in your life, you have someone who really means something to you, but then asking yourself, is there anything I ever wanted or needed in life? That question suggests that Cristian had hardened himself from needing anything from others to prevent himself from feeling vulnerable. Cristian wonders if the relationship is the right thing or if it's just a waste of time. Lifeless Life is another relationship-specific track where Machado admits that he wants this woman to be his drug of choice, but also suggests that that's what he wants to be for her as well. It actually borders on addiction, as is suggested by the lyrics, Yo no entiendo lo que es, or I don't understand what it is, everything is just a haze, I just need to become your disease. Numb is a particularly glowing highlight of this album. You definitely feel the love from this, the most romantic track of the album, but the sentimentality suffers from an undercurrent of melancholy, which makes it particularly gut-wrenching. I don't even know how to classify what they played. It was like romantic samba or mid-tempo bolero or something, I don't know. I just call it genius. The next track has me guessing that Machado is channeling his mom because on Have You Ever Felt, a song that is clearly calling out for reassurance, he expresses, I don't want to sound insane, but I can't take the pressure. Have you ever felt the same? Like you just need to run away. In two different conversations with Face Culture, one in 2003 and the other in 2004, Machado had spoken about his mother's decision to leave Brazil and Machado's father in search of a better life for her son and later daughter. But he also confessed that she may have been trying to escape a life and a relationship she just didn't want anymore. Machado shared that his father had hurt his mother, but in what way, he did not say. When it cuts sounds like the band had perfected the art of crafting a chorus. I don't know why I like it so much, but I really do. I'll admit that I'd want a bit more sophistication in the lyrics this time around, but nevertheless, the song overall is quite solid. Letting Go is another solid track but follows the theme of lifeless life in that there is a possessiveness that enters the realm of dysfunction. especially since Machado literally sings, "My inner voices are part of my disease, because it's pushing me to hurt you, but killing you is just killing me." At this point, one can be forgiven to think that the album is really about relationships. All the right words literally has "I just want to touch you, I just want to fuck you" in the lyrics. Are those the right words? I mean, maybe sometimes, right? But the song does show Cristian Machado's ambivalence when it comes to relationships. In confessing his love for his father and the mistake he made by not listening to his father when his father tried to connect with him, Cristian's relationships have been addictive at one end, but indifferent at the other. This time is for real, but only after he realizes this does he then question if he needs a relationship. Don't get me wrong, clearly there has been growth. Clearly there had been growth. There had been maturation, but perhaps not complete healing. As the lyrics go, "Can I lie to you like you want me to? I'll say that I love you." Is that Cristian telling the truth or a lie? You might be tempted to believe he's telling the truth, but why even suggest a lie? When Cristian Machado sat down with Face Culture in 2004, he was asked if he had met his father yet. He hadn't, but he and Ill Niño had just returned from a show in Mexico City in May 2004. That was their first show in Latin America, and they loved it. The plan was to tour with Soulfly and play some venues in South America by the end of the year, but unfortunately, none of the venues ended up being in Brazil. In fact, Ill Niño would not play a show in Brazil until 2009. However, that did not deter Cristian from meeting his father that very year. On his episode of the Bringing It Backwards podcast, Cristian Machado shared that he met his father when he was 30 years old, dating the Reunion to late 2004. He did it. He was ready to meet his old man, and he did it. As it turns out, Cristian really is similar to his father. His dad was a touring drummer and guitarist in Brazil during the 70s and 80s. In fact, Cristian's family is very musical, as his mother taught him how to play acoustic guitar, and his grandmother was a vocalist who escaped Nazi-invaded Poland to Italy, and then met Cristian's grandfather en route from Italy to Uruguay. But on Rebirth, the final track of Ill Niño's Confession, Machado explicitly sings, "Then I was only just a boy, dying young and growing old. But I know what I knew was wrong. My whole family lied to me." Face Culture had asked Machado if he could have talked to his grandmother and maybe she would have revealed the truth. But Machado smirked because he knew that she too would have been too biased. If Machado's mother allowed him to know his father, she might have had to deal with a relationship that she preferred to never revisit. And truth be told, maybe she was right about that. However, it resulted in a son that described himself as self-destructive and indecisive. Hell of a musician though. But finally, when talking about when music hits the hardest, Machado had this to say: "The times that bring me the most pain or reaction, or when I listen to the songs the first time back after we record them, and I listen to myself and what I'm saying in the music, that's when it hits. That's you." And while the Ill Niño lineup is looking somewhat different these days, Machado continues to make music as vocalist of Lions at the Gate, and ensures that he is an active and present father to his daughter. Despite Cristian's rocky relationship with his father, he was determined to be as good of a dad as he could be, and to ensure that the past wouldn't be repeated. Thanks for watching.